to life. Inner circles here where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come on, come on, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. Inner Circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. In a Circle podcast where love is well known. In a Circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong whenever.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Inner Circle podcast. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd, and tonight our topic is homelessness in America. There seems to be a crisis. So tonight on the Inner Circle podcast, we're going to be, taking a look at something that every city you travel to in America, you kind of, come across it, things like that. So tonight on the Inner Circle podcast, we are discussing homelessness in America. And so I'm your host, Abe Kamara. I'm joined by my man, regular Peterson from the winning city of Chicago. Peterson, welcome to the show. Can you hear us, Peterson? Titus, welcome to the show.
Speakers,
Okay, we can hear you now, Peterson. You can hear us?
speakers,
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Titus.
configure it.
Titus, go ahead. Can you hear
Can
me,
you
Titus?
hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks for having me tonight. I look forward to a great and insightful conversation. Um, Here to learn as well. Peterson, hopefully you can hear us now. Good to see you,
Yeah,
bro. It's been a minute.
you hear me?
Yep, yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Go ahead. Welcome to the show from the windy city of Chicago.
Good evening, gentlemen. This is really good to see you. It's been a while. And yeah, Abe, I don't know. This topic is is something heavy because it's not something you would expect to hear about when you hear about the great United States, but it's something that I mean, either you know people or you encounter it every day. So it's a great topic.
Definitely, we are taking on a crisis, that I think, and America cannot ignore, right? As you said, it's the richest nation on earth, but thousands still sleep on the bridges, in cars and in shelters, so and it includes like families, regular families, military veterans. That's what surprises most of us, right? It's like folks that
Mm.
volunteer to serve their country, at the end of the day, they become homeless. And sometimes our neighbors. So there isn't just about housing, it's about dignity, policy, and our values. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. And so, folks, you can contribute to the conversation by putting a comment in the chat or calling our number 952-594-5154. And also, follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. X, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Before we dive into this topic, man, gentlemen, there's something on my mind always. I mean, kind of the new thing that I think we should do here sometime, like dive into some time like things quick, and then before we get into the topic. But I don't know about you, Peterson, but I know around this season, right, is like all of these cities and these counties start proposing their property taxes or their levies, for next year. And in Minnesota, man, a lot of these cities and counties like proposing 7.7% increase, right? you know, yeah, it's like it's like if you add like a 7% on average to a property tax, imagine what that's going to do, right? I mean, obviously it's timely here that we're discussing homelessness. I mean, affordability becomes an issue. Even if you live in your house, sometimes like you wonder, right? Why does your mortgage payment goes up every year, even though your rate is fixed? But it is these counties, these cities, every year the only place they look to, they look to,
The
get
tax.
revenue is through property taxes.
Yep. Yeah, that is so true. And I had experience like that last year where when I did my escrow analysis, I think it was between July and August, my mortgage went up. I think it was about like 100 and change. But then
Okay.
they did it again right after that, like a month later, and they sent me the new bill. My mortgage would have gone up by $400. So I'm like, what is going on? So
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know who to call. I'm like, should I call my insurance? Should I call the county assessor to see like what it
Yeah.
is? And
Yeah.
everywhere I searched, they said if the mortgage increases like that is usually because of property tax
Yep.
or home insurance. So I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, but for me, the property tax did go up, and as you are aware, it goes up every year. But that increase came from my home insurance. They renew or the auto renew, but they hacked it up by $3,000 without
Whoa.
my knowledge.
Wow.
Yeah, it went from like 2,300 to $5,900.
Dang.
Yeah, so I had to call them and cancel. And when I call my broker, of course, that's the time I cannot get a hold of him. Oh, I'm gonna call you back, Mr. Tucker. I'm gonna call you back. And I'm like, God, something's gotta give. So yeah, that's like the only way that like some of
Yep.
these counties they can get some of that money. And many places with property taxes so high, sometimes you would think like, oh, this must be like the richest like zip code within
Yep.
this state, but
Yeah.
usually it's not.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like to your point right there, right? Like Broken Park, where the capital city of the Liberians in North America. Broken Park is raising about 12.5%. That's that. They are raising
Wow.
about imagine, I mean, imagine what's that going to do
What is
to
that?
imagine what's that going to do to folks, our Liberian folks in our community that have homes and things like that. So 12.5%, that's the proposal. Obviously they might if people speak against it, it might come down to like even maybe they might come down to 8 or 9, but even that is still high,
Yeah,
folks.
that is
That is still
still.
high,
Yep.
and to your point too, right, Peter, saying like it goes both the property tax and the insurance. Those are the when you see your mortgage going up, these are the two things that are going up. Idea of the insurance, you can go and cancel and go shop around. With the property
Yeah.
tax, no
Fantastic.
way. It
More
is,
affordable.
it is, it is what it is. So, Tados, anything to add there?
Man, when I think about it, I I try to understand what really controls this property tax. What is the underlying cause? How are they determining these prices? These this tax. What really controls it? I mean, I've never
Well,
really gotten a full understanding of how is assessed. I know that they look at the value of the house, the
hmm
area, but at
hmm
the end of the day, what is the true underlying cost? Because this is outrageous. I mean, rent is killing folks.
Hmm.
hmm
People are basically paying
hmm
mortgage for rent,
hmm
and it almost seems as if the only other option is just go ahead and own a home, pay the money that you're paying already. But then
hmm
when you go to own a home, you have all these other
Yeah.
Yeah.
expenses. Like, what do these people
Yes.
Yep.
want the common people to do?
to become homeless.
Yeah.
As
Really?
you go to
Seriously?
Yeah, they try to
this-
force people. And to your point about the underlying causes for the property tax, why it's sometimes so high, I've been like searching myself. And before the house that we're in now, before we bought this house, there was another house that we found, and we set a closing date. It was within, I think, like 18 hours of closing. And the mortgage lady, she's like, "Oh, there's a problem with your loan. The underwriter found something." I'm like, "I mean, I've provided everything you guys needed. What is it?" She's like, "Well, the property tax that's listed on the property is wrong. Instead of like 7,800, it's supposed to be 15,000." I'm like,
Whoa.
"What?" She's like, "Yeah, it's actually supposed to be double, but
Hmm.
since uh, in order for you to qualify for that property tax, you need to pay out your student loan, pay this one, pay this one, pay this one, pay this one." I'm like, yeah, all of that within 18 hours. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're talking to somebody that is connected to Bill Gates, right? And
Yeah,
Right.
but one of my new neighbors moved from that same neighborhood where the property was located, and I asked her, I said, "Why is the property tax over there so high and in that particular place?" And she said, uh, "Because they don't have a lot of industrial like um, complexes. So
yeah,
basically, neighborhoods that have some like warehouses and companies and things, those companies they recoup a lot of, they absorb a lot of the taxes within their place, so the property tax will not be so high. But if you go into a neighborhood, you don't find like no hardware store or anything like that, the
hmm
property tax is going to be high because there's nowhere else that they can go to get that money. So they have to tax the property owners. So that's one of the reasons.
yeah. And just for education, folks, to folks out there, especially like I mean, it's a podcast go all over. I mean, international folks or wherever you're listening from. One of the reason this is the main source of revenue for all of these cities and counties. Property taxes, their main source of
Yep.
revenue, right? The U.S. government can, I mean, is their main source of revenue, right? Uncle Sam can go through income tax and other means and stuff like that, but for cities and counties, this is their main source of revenue. So it's like it's through property tax. And I mean, that's how they finance their, their wages,
Hmm.
their health insurance or whatever else, that, government do, right? All the yama yama thing or all this stuff, government does, that's what they do. So, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. So, next one here, I don't know whether you guys heard this, right? The FDA came up with recommendations that Tylenol causes autism. I mean, that's yeah, it's like it's like and they're advising like pregnant ladies should not take Tylenol anymore. It's like it's Tylenol is a main cause of autism in kids. Obviously it's a controversial stuff, but it's huge, right? Because I mean, we all take Tylenol. We have a headache. I do ibuprofen, but pretty much the same thing. I mean, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But just to throw that out there, right? The FDA came out with stuff that Tylenol causes. The main cause of autism is Tylenol. And I mean, you see a lot of immigrant kids, I mean, you see a lot of immigrant kids kind of are suffering from that stuff and things like that. So it's huge. Okay. And lastly here, which one? See here. Ooh, let me see which one I got here. Okay, and then lastly, Jimmy Kimmel is coming back tonight, right? They try to cancel the member.
Oh,
ABC is bringing him back tonight. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, NBC is bringing him back tonight and stuff like that. So if you didn't know, Jimmy Kimmel is coming back tonight. So
Uh,
hopefully, at least, hopefully the whole cancel culture thing can go away. Let it all have peace. They shouldn't cancel Cycle Park. Yeah, we should come here and talk about homeless folks and all those stuff.
Oh
But
man.
anyway, thanks for that. So, but anyway, let's jump into the topic tonight. Homelessness in America.
Wait, I
And
heard, I heard there was a caveat to his return though, that his show wouldn't be broadcasting on a lot of other platforms
really?
yeah, well, the
as it
way
used to be.
Yeah, the way TV station work in America, right? Even though you got Disney that owns, like make these shows, but they are the You got local companies that own various TV stations, and then you got Sinclair and Nexstar. So those two carriers said they won't be carrying, that show on their local channels. So those ABC stations are owned by local companies, and these companies are saying they won't carry it. The owners are saying they won't carry it. So I think that was a caveat there.
So then, where is it going to be broadcasted? Because
Well, it
although
depends
it's
what
a
city you live
national,
in, right? So
okay,
if like, for example, my local ABC station, if it is owned by Sinclair is in the won't carry, but a lot of other cities, right? So, according to what I heard today, Sinclair is in 22 markets.
okay,
And when I say 22 markets, right, it might be Minneapolis, right? But it might be Minneapolis, MSP. But then even when you go to Duluth, it might be someone else that owns it, right? So in the same state, it might be, different owners because every city, when they say 22 market, it's not like the state, it's by city.
okay.
Yeah. So
So probably 22 of the big cities, mini markets, maybe.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So well, anyways, let's jump into this topic tonight: homelessness in America. Man, it's a huge crisis. Everywhere you go in this country, you will see someone. Yeah, I think a day or two ago, my daughter and I were driving. Say, you had a lady standing on, at the intersection with a sign. You know what I mean? Obviously, she's homeless. And everywhere you go in America, right? There is an issue. There's a crisis. And Peterson, to your point, to be in the richest country in the world, economy almost $30 trillion. Spend a lot on military. I mean, on the military. I mean, the defense budget is huge. Spend so much on other things, and yet to have folks that are homeless in this country is kind of it's shocking when you first come. For some of us that came from poor countries, it's shocking, right? When you hear about America, you say, "Oh God," it's like everything is good, But then one of the shocking thing I think is this whole homeless crisis.
Yeah, it sure is because, like, to your point, uh, the way America is portrayed out there to the rest of the world, it's like almost like little heaven on earth. Kind of like, yeah, people will do just about anything to like step their foot onto this land. But then when you come here and like the everyday experiences that people have, the first time I saw somebody like with a cardboard sign, like maybe in the city of Chicago, like a red light, I'm like, wait, did that sign just say, "Oh, I'm homeless, help"? And at first, I thought it was like, "Oh, okay, maybe it's a prank," because this is like early in the 2000s. I'm like, I don't think that's real. Maybe the person is just like doing something, but then to find out that there are more and more people like that you encounter every day, and the first time you see somebody, you will feel like, "Oh man, I have to do something to help this person," like, and then the next block you go on, you see somebody, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is a trend. I don't think I can stop for everybody. And but I'm one of those that I feel like every person has a story. And many times, people that we see that are homeless and things like that, uh, we just want to be quick to say, "Oh, yeah, it's their fault." I mean, there's jobs available here. Why can't they go and work? But you don't know the story behind that person. And like in your intro, when you were talking about like veterans and things, these are people that like basically lay down their life. They
Hmm. Hmm.
sacrifice
Hmm.
to go into the military, and then they come
Yep.
home, and many of them are like they end up being homeless. And like, how, why?
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's like it's so shocking, right? Just I mean, as of last year, as of last year, the last time they had some recent data, 781,000 people every single night. Don't I mean it's like on shelter. They don't have shelter. They don't have anywhere to go.
Wow.
781,000 people every single night, right? Don't have anywhere to go. Don't have anywhere. There's no shelter to go to. right? I mean, they are homeless every single night. That's not like the whole year, every single night as of 2024. I mean, Tada, when you think about that number, as I said, right, the richest country in the world, with so much resources, is like, we should be our brother's keeper. What is it? What is it that will be driving this, or why is that? I mean, to Peterson's point, sometimes like some folks have mental health, is like, but the
Yeah,
system though should be able to, the system should be able to find a way that is like, because it's a huge crisis.
you would think so, right? But we 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 must not forget we're in a capitalist society. This is not, one of those other societies that will that is more of a socialist than just the money. Europeans boast about their standard of living all the time. Their society cares more about the standard of living. They have a better standard. They're always boasting about it, from the food to the work life balance to just generally to health insurance and generally how the society um, pays attention to the well being of the people. Unfortunately, we're in a place. I mean, you can't have it all, right? There are advantages here in the U.S., but these are part of the disadvantages um, in these parts where they are like the mental crisis that we're talking about that might cause instability, the underemployment,
Yeah,
under and unemployment in various states and cities. These are
yeah,
all things that are impacting the cause of being homeless. what
yeah,
what can people do? Policies are not being driven to really address these underlying factors where society is just really thinking about how much money they can make out of even the citizens that don't have the money. So
yeah. I mean, it's like Peterson, to Tyler's point, right? Back in the days, right? It's like, late 90s, early 2000s, right? You used to find, I know probably was the same thing in Chicago. They used to find like an apartment, 300, 400, right? Maybe like folks were making like $8, $10 back then, right? Per hour. But if you really look at it over time, right? Rent has gone up to 2,000, 3,000, but maybe the highest someone, minimum wage is making, still making like $10,
but the wage
$15,
is
right?
not. Yeah,
So the titles point is like,
what's
and
there?
sometimes, so you have folks even like working two jobs, right? Just to afford rent. And it comes to a point where it becomes so burdensome. And then the person said, God, my only option maybe is to go to a shelter. And then but
Yeah.
the shelter becomes so overwhelmed and someone then become homeless. So to your point earlier, sometimes it is not their fault. They're trying to make it, they try every means to try to make it, but it's just become tough, right? Because I mean, as I've said a couple of times on the show, right? A friend of mine told me one time in America the month go to end. And all the bills be coming at you, boom, boom, boom. So that it becomes overwhelming, it becomes
Yeah.
overwhelming.
Yeah. So, uh, if you search like the root cause of homelessness, one of
Hmm.
the first thing that's going to pop up would be like housing affordability and like the high cost of housing, like we are discussing earlier when we were
Yeah.
talking about property taxes. So
Hmm.
this is like the number one cause, because if somebody can at least afford to pay their bills where they live, they have no reason, even if they are on substance, like the other causes, it becomes secondary,
Yeah.
because if the person cannot afford to have that shelter over their head, then I mean, if they have to worry about rent and they have to worry about other bills at the same time, like, okay, something's got to give. Sometimes it becomes stressful, and the person's like, okay, hour in, hour out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, to your point, right? Definitely, right? It is a whole homelessness. I mean, obviously, Peterson will come back here soon, but the rent, housing affordability that like Peterson was alluding to titles that and the other thing, when you really look at the data deeper, right? Is like those that are affected most by this homelessness are kids. Like and one of the data point that I saw is like kids under 18, right? 150,000 every single night that are experiencing homelessness. I mean, homelessness is like it's crazy.
Yeah.
150,000 like every single night in this country, right? I mean, obviously it's depending where you live, but that's crazy, man. That's a huge number.
Staggering number. Staggering number. And I don't know if you were able to see some facts too about the demographics that are
Mm-hmm,
usually
mm-hmm.
impacted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's when you talk about it, folks think you want to pull that card, but I mean, it's just a reality. That I mean, the data shows it.
Yeah.
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 Peterson, were
Yeah.
you saying something?
Yeah. Yeah. Peterson, go ahead and finish your thought.
No, yeah, I was just saying about the housing costs and not being able to afford house. So if somebody cannot pay their rent or their mortgage, and then I was saying like the other causes, if somebody is abusing a substance or if they have other things that's going on in their life, it becomes secondary because if they cannot afford to
Hmm.
put shelter or put roof over their head, then they're gonna just basically like, okay, well, whatever little I have, I'm going to put it
Yeah.
towards like this thing that can get me high so that I can now at least think about the stress of trying to afford this rent.
Yeah, and then I didn't tell the other thing, right, about the demographics and the disparities, you're talking about, right? Like some of the things you can point to, right? It's a men over 45, and I think Pearson kind of alluded to this, right? I mean, those are folks normally you see maybe they're coming from the military,
Yeah.
coming from the military, the
That's
veterans and stuff like that. But men over 45 years old, right, experience the highest number of unsheltered homelessness. It's like you wonder why. That's because at that age, right, you should be those are able-bodied people,
hmm
right? Those are he's talking especially talking about men, right? Those they should be able-bodied people. I should
yeah.
be able to work to afford stuff. Well, I think one of the cause, I mean, one of the issue there is right. Someone come from the military, right? Maybe like a person was deploying in Iraq or Afghanistan or overseas or whatever, right? They come, they experience some kind of a traumatic experience. Now it's like maybe they're acting up at home and stuff like that, and your wife can't take it anymore, right? And then the system is not
And
taking
the
care of
system
them.
is filling them. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
system is not really treating them or the treatment they need. And then you know what? At the end of the day, he started abusing abusing drugs, and then
Yeah.
he end up on the street. You wonder,
Yeah.
wow, why?
Yeah. Yeah. So the system is really focused on what it can get from you than what it can provide for you. I mean, when we talk about veterans, that's such a soft spot for me because I can't wrap my head around how a society will just neglect folks that put their lives on the line, you know, for the integrity and safety of its own people. I mean, these guys are supposed to be first class citizens. I mean, how do these people who control all these resources sleep at night? And as you were saying initially when we started, look at the amount of dollars we spent on warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what we sent to other countries to support a warfare to give them ammunitions. It's just unreal to fathom, honestly.
I mean, obviously, right? Yeah, to your point there, I think one of the issue, this whole populism, the reason why populism have grown, right? I mean, to your point there is, you're looking at you can't even afford to put roof over your head, but you hear sometimes the U.S. government is giving Ukraine maybe $50 billion. So okay, why are you giving why are you giving Ukraine $50 billion
Yeah,
dollars where maybe like you can spend some of that money here and
yeah.
take care of your own. And everywhere you go, right, in this country, whether Caucasian or African American or Native American or Asian American, they'll have those issues. Okay, why are we taking care of so many people,
You can take care of
versus
your own.
taking care of ourselves, and that's one of the issues. Like actually, like Donald Trump, right? Is that that's his popularity came from that. Is that we're taking care of other people so much than ourselves. Obviously, I don't know whether he's the right messenger. Have people that got a message for him. Have people that's a whole other story. But that is like because like a lot of folks affordability, right? When it comes prices are so high, especially when it comes to housing. Housing is so high, and to your point earlier, if someone cannot afford it, it become out of reach. That becomes like to them, you say, you know what, to hell with it.
Yep.
Just to support you before Peterson comes in, just to support that point you're making with the inability to afford housing versus the wages, how everything else is going up but the
Mhm.
wages. I mean, what is what is that about? Someone make an analogy where, they say, okay, the society encourages you to go and get the education. There is no cap on how much education you can get, right? Go to that much school you want to go to, you are going to accrue your loans, but the level of education that you're going to get, is that going to correlate, is that going to align with the cap that's placed on the salaries? I mean, there's cap on how much you can make, but there is no cap on how much debt you
We
can
can charge you,
accrue.
but there's no cap on how much they can charge you for rent or for housing.
Yes, how much you gonna owe?
Yeah.
So I mean, these guys, man, when you
About supply
the
and
thing,
demand, though, right? When
it's
it comes to
wild,
issues,
man. When you
when
think
it comes to
about it.
issues about the supply and demand, right? The reason why housing is unaffordable, right? The reason why there's an affordability crisis is because there's it's a huge supply and not enough demand. Peterson, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, huge supply and not enough demand because there's supply, but if the demand they don't have the the funds to secure, then of course you're gonna have surplus. But uh, to the point that you're making about like this America populism, that the message that President Trump was campaigning on. Yeah, the premise of like the message and the policy, it sounded really good, and
Mm-hmm.
people fell behind it. And I mean, anybody you talk to, they will say, yeah, I mean, you have to clean up your own house. You make sure everybody's good in your house before you go out there. So with that, everybody's like, oh, yeah, he's saying the right thing. And this would be like this trickle down economics type of thing where uh, whatever we're sending out there, the US aid and to different places, once we stop it, the money is not going to be here. Now we can hand it out to the people, and we can give it to them like in different ways. And one of the ways that they could have done was to say, okay, we're going to make housing more affordable now, since we're not sending the USAID agency is no longer functioning. All those billions and billions of dollars that were going around the world now is going to be staying here. We're going to have to find a way to distribute it to the population. So maybe cut the interest rate for housing, because a couple years ago during COVID, they were like the interest rate went up on my house. Luckily, it was still below like 5%. But then what was it, 23? The company I was working for, they wanted me to move out of state. And I'm like, yeah. And at that time, it was like 9%.
Hmm.
And I remember
Wow.
the CEO was like, oh, by the end of this year, it's going to like drop down maybe to like 6 or 5%. And that was 2.5, 3 years ago. It still haven't come down to that level. And I don't think it will ever go to that level again. So if housing is not affordable, because those are the basic needs for people: food, shelter, and then being safe. That's it. And how else can you feel safe if you don't have a safe place to be, as in a roof over your head?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing though, that I mean, to your point there, right? I mean, last week on our business segment, right, we discussed inflation, right? When the Fed lower, the Fed's funds rate and things like that. Obviously, right, mortgage rate hasn't come down much. To your point, it's around 6 to 7%, and that's high for any. I mean, is that for those trying to enter the housing market right now? That's really really high. It's like if you take a $400,000 house, imagine you might probably be paying 4 or 5 thousand. You know what I mean? Just your
Yep.
mortgage, right?
Yep.
$4 or $5,000. Then when they add property tax or when they add, when they add insurance, that whole thing's gonna go through the roof. Yeah, but I mean, these are some of the things, right? And since after COVID, right, the housing affordability has really, really become worse because of what inflation. I mean, natural disasters these days, right? Because of climate change, a lot of natural disasters going on. And sometimes they say, like, when some of these natural disasters happen in like places like maybe Florida or other places, right? Those that are on the margins, basically, maybe someone who's can hardly, I mean, could hardly afford it, or was even the so-called middle
Yeah.
class, sometimes when they lose those homes and then they don't have maybe enough insurance coverage, they have nowhere else. I mean, and man, one day we'll bring that insurance topic here because those are those fools, the whole people that just eating free money, and yeah, it's
Free
the
money.
free money, and they just making things worse for people. But then, that's that, and then also, I mean, like a lot of cities now are taking away eviction protection. So folks that are renting, sometimes like if you live on your rent 2 3 times, the landlord has the right to what, to evict you. And then sometimes like no one else want to rent to you. Nobody else want to rent to you. In America, everything is record. Nobody want to rent to you. So I think the policymakers, our government officials, especially local government, need to find a way because there's a crisis, man. I mean, I went to New Orleans last year. Dude,
Yes.
it's like almost close to the downtown. It was like how you're driving somewhere, it's like homeless folks all over the place. So, whoa, really, it's scary. And how can these cities allow this thing to fester? Even in Minneapolis here, there was a huge crisis, a couple of days ago. I mean,
Yeah.
with the city trying to clear like a homeless encampment. So I mean, these cities and the government, especially local government, need to find a solution to this thing. Tadas?
But also the people, and that's where we come again with this representation that we're always talking about on Inner Circle podcast. How we have the numbers and how we need to get involved. Again, when you look at the population that's overrepresented with this housing crisis, you'll find that minorities, Black and African Americans are really a majority of that number. But on the other hand, we are underrepresented when it comes to decision making. So I mean, how are these decisions going to be made? I mean, everything is about number in this type of society. Everything is about numbers. They must see that you have the numbers to either control or impact the capital flow in order for them to pay any type of attention to you or a group of people. So again, it boils down to us being active, continue to speak about these things, but also follow up on these conversations, community organizations, mobilize ourselves and be represented on these tables so that when these discussions are going on, we are there. We are part of the decision. Else I mean, it feels like we're always going to be on the receiving end of the table if we're not on the table itself to be a part of this discussion and just relying on these folks to make better decisions for our livelihood. Now look at what's happening now. Imagine what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 years. Our kids are going to be in this thing. Imagine what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm glad that you brought a case over. Sometimes, like when I see high school kids, when I see kids graduating from high school and they don't want to go to college, it breaks my heart because guess what? At the end of the day, right? If you don't go get a college degree, at least that first year degree, I mean, you're going to end up in a minimum wage situation. And I can tell you, if you end up in a minimum wage situation, the affordability crisis is going to hit you hard. It is going to hit you very, very hard because guess what? You have to pay rent, you have to get a car, you have to do everything else,
You
and
have to
then
live.
you have to live, and
You have
then
to
if you
buy
want a
eggs for
family,
more
if
than
you want
five
a
dollars.
yeah, and then if you want a family, right? If you want a family that as
Yeah.
well, right, is extra what burden, and that's one of the issue you see. Even like I mean, there was a study that came out. I mean, a couple of months ago. They said like young folks don't want to have what family because it's so expensive. They afford the yeah. They don't want to. You
So
know, yeah, they don't want to. I mean, the birth rate in America is so low. I mean, the only people that sometimes seems to be having kids, like I mean, we immigrants, we're not afraid, right? We say, you know what, to hell with cost, hell with cost, we do get do it. But that's the reason why the birth rate is so high because to even afford family is hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is because, like we discussed here a few episodes ago about people, the future generation, the decision they will have to make about whether to have children or not, because everything is so costly now. So if you live, you have a minimum wage job. If you do not have a college degree and you have a minimum wage job, that's not living wage, because that's what some administrations have been advocating to say, okay, what is the living wage? But it you cannot tell me how much I can make to live because based on how much you make to live, it's not the same. It's
Hmm.
Yeah,
subjective to every person. So,
Yeah.
but if you are making minimum wage and you cannot afford like a place to live, then the decision about having a family or even starting one, it's gonna be like you're gonna put that off. Like, well, right now I cannot even afford my rent on a monthly basis, and now I'm going to try to add like other mouths to feed
yeah,
potentially. No,
yeah,
Yeah.
and like to your point about it being heartbreaking when your kids graduate and they don't want to further their education, and then sometimes even the homelessness we are discussing tonight, sometimes it affects like a whole family. And
yeah,
uh, many times I've seen people with young like babies, basically wrapped in cloths, and they will like the whole family would be sitting at the corner of some street
yeah,
with cardboard box, and they're begging because one circumstance or another, or maybe there was some situation they couldn't afford where they were living anymore. And that's what we're talking about. Just these are like basic necessity for living. You can't expect people to like function in society if they do not have a safe place to lay their head at night.
yeah. And then I think that sometimes when you see those situations, I think the way the homeless shelter work, if you spend a night there, I think you gotta get out, right?
Yep.
You gotta get out. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, yeah, definitely you gotta get out and then maybe go back at night or whatever. Right? That's how the homeless
Oh,
shelter
so
work because
they
What?
don't do
So they're
like they
rotating.
don't just keep they
yeah,
don't
it's
just
kind of
keep
like a rotation. Yeah, it's kind of like a rotation,
You
right?
don't
It's
keep.
like
You don't keep a spot there.
no,
I guess
everyone because
because
there's a huge demand for there's a huge demand.
oh yeah, that makes
There's a
sense.
huge
Yeah.
Wow.
demand for it, right? It's like so, especially when it comes to I'm not saying where in like if they
Man.
find you like a stable housing. I mean, if they find like a stable housing where in that's yours. But so long
Yeah.
if you go to like a not salvation, I'm a Catholic charities where it's they run a lot of homeless shelters. If you go there, spend the night, I think the next morning you gotta get out, man, because somebody else
Wow.
probably looking for somewhere to I mean to try to get a nap or or get a sleep. So it's huge demand for these things. Huge demand. So sometimes when you
That's
see a
sad.
family in a street corner or someone, at a street corner is because maybe like that's the only place now, that's the only place they can be at that point in time. And then like they are only allowed to go back to the shelter to sleep, right? Especially like during the winter and stuff that they really prioritize that. But that's one of the reasons why you see and that's how the homeless shelter function, right? Because it is. I mean, it's
Wow.
but one of the thing too, though, I think cities are the one. The zoning laws in this country is sometimes, it's funny, right? I mean, to your point, Titus, where in like you say, like we got to have representation, right? We are not at the table, so it's like we don't. But there are a lot of, some of the, I mean, contributing factors to this whole homeless shelter, right? It's like that. It's because of one of the reasons because of zoning laws. There are certain cities or there are certain places you cannot build multifamily housing
Mm.
or you cannot build like affordable housing. Just the way you don't want maybe if I live in certain city where I don't want Walmart in my backyard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what, so the zoning laws or some of the laws on the books are kind of contributing to these things. And those at the table, they are not really doing anything about it to address those things.
Yes. Yes. You. Yeah. And I mean, you said it already. It's not any places where from where people can just build anywhere. No codes are observed. You can put any structure down as you feel. Uh, it is controlled here. Is regulated. So
I mean,
um,
No, I'm
yeah,
going
go
to say
ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead, Peter.
Like I didn't know about that point until I moved to my house. Like people, you cannot put just about any structure anywhere. So
Hmm.
about maybe 200 yards behind like the subdivision where I lived, it was like a huge cornfield. When we first moved in, like it was like a cornfield, it was a field. And then
Mm-hmm,
there was a property development company that bought it. And right when they bought it, they said, "Oh, they plan to build apartments." And like everybody in my subdivision, they I don't know who started it, but they passed out petitions. They would come and knock on the doors, like every house.
yeah.
Somebody would come and knock, like, "Oh, we don't want no like Section 8 house over here. You shouldn't
Oh,
build nothing there." Yeah,
oh,
they they said they are going to block it if they try to develop like those like affordable housing. They are going to go and literally protest and stand in front of like those bulldozers or something like that. But we used to have like a little community meeting where they was said, I think it was either, I don't know if it's the representative from our area, but they call everybody will go like meet in like at the end of one street, like the
Mm-hmm,
cul-de-sac.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they say, yeah, we don't want this here. We don't want like because once they build these affordable housing units, then we have people that are abusing drugs. We have this and we have that,
yeah.
and yeah. So based on that, the developers they took that into consideration, and they built luxury apartments. And some of like what people are paying for rent is almost equivalent to what we are paying for mortgage in the like the same
Mm-hmm.
area.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
definitely.
but
Right, go ahead, Talis. Go ahead.
no, just adding to it to Pete's point. Those are part of the reasons, and it's a good thing that it brought that up because going against those zonings, right? If those were not really in place, it would really increase the affordability for folks, to
yep,
own homes. These different type of homes, multifamily homes, even the small homes for families. You know, I think it would have brought some sort of relief and solution to this housing crisis. But I mean, again, when you look at the other side of it too, there is good reason there as well, right? Because you could devalue a property, you could devalue the area. Um, think about the stringent parking, you know, policies that guide our cities, right? So I mean, it's a both way street. I think you just have to look at which side
mhm,
gives more of a benefit to the society. But unfortunately for us, that's not how our society works here.
no,
Okay. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing homelessness in America. It's a huge crisis. About almost a million people a night are homeless in this country, all over America. I mean, you go to certain cities. I went downtown forward one day, my man. I saw I saw homeless people. I said, man, it's
Why
like
in Texas?
yeah, because it's a huge. I mean, it has a huge military presence,
Big.
right? So most of those
Yeah.
veterans, right? I mean, it's like most of the veterans. I saw homeless people. I said, whoa. I mean, what's going on here? You know, yeah, stuff like that. So that's what we are discussing tonight, folks. You can put a comment in the chat or call our number 952-594-5154. But shoot, you know what I mean? It's like not even, I mean, there's not a
Let
federal
me ask you a
government.
question though, Ed.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, go
With
ahead.
these shelters, is there any
Mm,
pathway to? I mean, you talked about the huge demand.
mhm, mhm.
Everybody is kind of needing this, but while people are there, is there any pathway to like permanent housing for these folks? You have.
Yeah, well, like the and that's why you have like those like in our community, right? You have those group homes, right? So those having mental health challenges, right? Or those, they have case workers. Homeless people most of the time they have case workers, right? Some of them are like if you go to Catholic charities, they do have case worker that will connect you to a case worker. Also now these cities and the counties have, case worker that will connect you that to what to try to find you stable housing, right? I mean, they're trying to find you stable housing. But even that, the demand is huge.
Hmm.
The demand for these things, I mean, you'll be surprised. Demand is huge, right? Because sometimes like in America, we all kind of live in a bubble. If you're not experiencing certain things,
Right.
you don't even know how it is, right? We all
That's
live in
true.
this. We all live in a bubble, but it's a huge, huge crisis everywhere in this country. There are those that are going to those shelters. They are looking for stable housing, but there's no way the county or the city can find it for them because the city, they got a designate set in place to say, okay, you know what? Maybe they got to find providers, right? Folks that are willing to, to accept certain prices, right? To take these folks in, you know, and
Correct.
sometimes the city or the county cannot find it. Is so so to answer that question, yes. If you go to a Catholic charity, they will connect you with a caseworker to help you find stable housing. But sometimes that becomes a challenge. And then during that time, the person might not have patience, they might just fall through the cracks, things become worse, and then their situation get worse, and then it just go down. It just go downhill from there.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
when you say stable housing, is that something that to say, oh, the person they're gonna find them like affordable or just a place, whether they have to,
I,
because if the
sometimes
person
sometimes
comes
there are
to the
different
shelter,
there
they
are
might not be
different
able to
stages. Yeah,
live.
there are different stages of stable housing, right? So sometimes they just want to house you, you know what I mean? Waiting like, hey, they want to get you from the shelter or from the street, right? Find you somewhere maybe temporarily, and then you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And then from there, they will try to find you somewhere permanent where you can be able to, afford it. Also be able to find a job to work and all those stuff, and things like that, right? So there are stages of it. If you are in the shelter, we'll try to get you from there, get you somewhere temporarily, right? Because they just, because that's it. There are huge demand for these things. Huge, huge demand. Recently in Minneapolis, they cleared a homeless encampment. They were trying to find and they're trying to determine where to put those folks. And there was nowhere
Hmm.
for them to go. Nowhere, nowhere to put them, nowhere to house them because what? It's not available. It's just not there.
Yeah, if you go down like southeast Minneapolis, you'll see the tents all on the side of the roads, man. It's like a whole city,
That is
a
sad.
homeless city over there.
It's
People just
all
out
over.
there. It's
A couple
everywhere.
of years ago, I know right now California is trying to work on that, but if you go to LA, everywhere. LA is one of the most expensive city in the world, right? It's like, folks go out there for
Probably is
opportunity.
worse.
When they realize, damn, they can't even afford rent, so they become homeless. And so everywhere you go, you see a tent. Everywhere it's a
Yeah.
male. I thought
Wow.
LA should be. I thought LA should be. Glamorous, right? And stuff like that. But everywhere
Mm.
there are homeless people all over, right? So it is a huge. As I said, it's a huge, huge crisis everywhere you go in this country. I would name cities upon cities everywhere. So you wonder, gosh, why can the government, whether local or national, the federal government, find some sort of a solution to this thing? Right? Is like maybe like based on high rise apartments and just find somewhere for these people. You know what I'm
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that during the last administration, a lot of people here, especially in Chicago, they have problems with when we had all those caravans of migrants coming,
saying? Mm-hmm.
and uh, many times the the local government, the city and the state, they will try by all means and find places for like these people, but then the like citizens that are homeless, they have to go look for their own shelters, and to your point, to even find like stable housing, that's is not possible. So a lot of people were like frowning on the idea, like, okay, you were taking these migrants and then you would find housing, affordable housing, or you would find it because they are not working, so it cannot be affordable. It has to be something that is basically free. They'll put
Mm-hmm.
them in, they'll find a place for them to be, but then you have like citizens that, whether they are on substance, they are abusing substance, or because of certain situation that they are unsheltered, and now they have to find their own shelters, or they have to be roaming the streets. So is uh, many years ago in Chicago, they used to have, it's not like a homeless shelter, but certain neighborhoods on the south side, they had these high rises that it was like affordable housing. But
Mm-hmm.
the people, they misuse those places, because it was like gang infested, drug infested. So now they live in a place that is almost like free. So whatever money they have, they spend it on other things, on other vices. So uh, the city went ahead and they broke everything down years ago, and now uh, those places are not available anymore. So that's why sometimes you will see, like in Chicago, the homeless population uh, have increased because although they were abusing substances when they were in those places, but at least they had shelter. But now they don't have anywhere to go.
The other angle to this, right? There are a lot of people, especially sometimes in our community, right, in the immigrant community. Sometimes, like when we are facing these crises, homelessness or whatever, things. We have talked about mental health here. We sometimes don't seek help. So the other aspect of this, where you have people like I went sometimes I've been on the East Coast. I mean, it's one of the places where like Philly, New York, you have people sharing, like someone would take one bedroom apartment, everybody get one room, right? It's like trying to just trying to survive.
Yeah.
That was shocking to me, right? Because we in the immigrant community, right? It's like, damn, I ain't gonna go to a homeless shelter, so I'd rather go, find one of my buddy, you know what I mean, and tell him, hey, can I, what I mean, can I maybe like give you like 500 bucks just to, squat in your room, or maybe give you 400 bucks to squat in your room. I see that, you see that a lot on the East Coast. So is this crisis could even be worse if folks in the immigrant community were even, because like someone is like basically cannot afford to be in a place, but they are so ashamed to go to a homeless shelter. So sometimes they go live with a family member or a friend. That is.
But at the same time, though, that I mean, the immigrant community could see that as a safety net because the like we're discussing here, the government doesn't really have sufficient, you know,
But aren't we
areas.
aren't we hiding? It's like aren't we hiding a crisis that is pretty much in our community, right? But it's like we pretty much like sweeping it under the rug because
In a
it is a
sense.
crisis. I mean, it is a, if you cannot, as I said, that was shocking to me, Peterson. Okay,
Definitely a
seeing
crisis.
a grown man, a grown man, one burger private, it is a burger. It was shocking to me. I said, okay, dude, can't you go get your own, one bedroom or two bedroom apartment? It was shocking to me, but it's just
I
the
mean,
kid.
if
How
you're
can I?
doing that temporarily while seeking help, then yeah, that's that's proactive, that's positive. But if you're just going there and you just want to be with another person, again, like Peter said earlier too, like Peterson said, you can't judge. You don't know the story. You don't know what's happening down there, man. You don't know what's happening. That
No,
man
it's not
probably
about judging, right? Maybe the point
running
I'm
for
trying
his
to
life.
drive at, the point I'm trying to drive at, right? You will hear like other folks are seeking because, as I said, it's a crisis, right? But I think the homelessness number have been underreported because a lot of people are not seeking help. A
Yeah,
lot
Yeah,
like
of people
yeah,
are
yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, the system is not counting them because people,
yeah,
what, instead of me going to a homeless shelter to try to seek help, I'm just going to, find a buddy or find somewhere maybe find somewhere where I can sleep
yeah,
on someone's couch.
yeah. And to that point, not only in like the African immigrant community, because sometimes if you live in a place with a large like Hispanic or Latino community, sometimes you will see like they will be in a house, but when it's time to go to work, you see like, okay, how many people? Like 10, 11, 12, 13. Wait, how many rooms in the house?
I mean, is it a master? And you see one little house. You see one little house. And
and
You
20
see all these
people
people
coming
come
outside,
out, coming outside.
and how
So
small,
yeah,
small
to your
cars could
point,
be
it
in the
is.
driveway.
Yeah, yeah. So to your point, it is underreported because if all those 15 or however many people, if they all say, well, yeah, I cannot afford a place by myself right now, so I'm gonna go to the shelter, that number would be like even higher.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely no, right? And the other thing when it comes to the homeless crisis, right, is like you will see. I mean, the one thing that is surprising in this country as well. I mean, titles. Obviously, I do. I mean, talk about capitalism. I mean, we know it's a capitalist society. Sometimes you will see an apartment or condo sitting vacant, no one in there. Okay, but yeah, we have all these homeless. You have like even during COVID, right? There were all these empty, office buildings and stuff like that, right? Nobody was even waiting to turn some of these things to, maybe temporary housing or whatever. But it's like, as a society, what does that say about our values,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, as a society, what does that say about our value to look at our fellow human beings homeless, sleeping on the streets, or cannot even afford
Frozen.
is like nowhere to lay their head? What does that say about us?
I mean, as the time goes by, honestly, you see if you're paying attention to just just about everything around us, we're feeling as a society, man. From what we're projecting to families, to the kids, the way we handle family matters. Just there are different programs that instead of protecting families that are in place to divide families, we are feeling as a society. I mean, I cannot even overstate this. You know, there is nothing. There's no compassion, Abe. I mean, it's just all about the money. It's all about the Benjamin. I don't know how else to stress this.
Yeah, and other thing too, right? Like, I mean, is that if you look at some of these cities' budget, right, we spend more on law enforcement, on policing, and sometimes those that are committing these crimes, sometimes are homeless folks, especially in major cities, right? Because I mean, they are the one doing the drugs, they are the one, pushing. I mean, to your point that you brought up, to the point that you brought up, Peterson, earlier, right? Is that you have folks in that kind of environment, they feel that there's no other means of survival, they turn to illicit stuff. But instead of spending so much on law enforcement, to try to police these folks, you can find, I mean, the local government or the government as a whole can find a way, right, to like, I mean, to better their lives. Because why? I mean, what does it take to maybe spend 100 million or 50 million on a on a police department? When you can easily maybe like cut that budget and maybe like solve some of these homeless crisis and get some of these people off the streets. I mean, they won't be committing crime.
Yeah. So, uh, for Illinois or Chicago, that's the one that I know because it's like they rather board up a house. uh if it's abandoned, they rather board it up. If it's in a neighborhood that somebody have gotten killed, or maybe somebody shot through their house, they rather board it up, or have somebody come and completely demolish it, and to say, oh, okay, well, how about we just leave it, whoever wants to come, that doesn't have a shelter, to come in and something. And like you guys were saying, it's all about the money, because many times these empty buildings or abandoned buildings that we see, if it's like an office building, the government is still getting money from it, but they they are not willing to say, okay, well, since we are already getting the the money for this property, why don't we put it to a good use? And the budget, when you hear about like just the city of Chicago or Illinois, that's like a whole country budget. If you hear about just things they put into, like you said, law enforcement or other things, instead of infusing that into the common economy and saying, okay, how can we make more housing affordable for more people? They don't do that. And is this thing, like Tada said, just people, they just don't care. And uh they accept like mediocrity. So I had somebody that was telling me recently that their child went to school and they took like a quiz or exam, and then they came home with the result that they didn't like. The person like scored a D or something on that exam, and she asked her child like, how can you bring like such a grade? And he's like, well, at least I try. Or the teachers like, they said that I tried. So they are not like
Hmm.
enforcing, like, how back home, if you don't study at home, the teacher will make sure you study, because they're gonna enforce that
Yeah.
standard. Like they set that high standard. So it's like our society now that we live in is like, okay, well, it's all about the
Yeah.
money, whatever I can put in my pocket,
Just
and
get by.
that's what. Yeah, just get by.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, folks. Tonight we have been discussing homelessness in America. There's a crisis. Every city you go to here, you see folks on the bridges. You see folks standing at a street corner. It's like this affect families, young kids, veterans. Folks that have served in the military. It's a crisis. So 1 hour show won't be going here all night. We'll try to wrap it up here soon, though, right? But if you look at some of the things, if you look at how the whole shelter process, even the whole shelter thing, right? You have that emergency shelter where someone who's needing a place right now, right? Go there. And then I mean one of the reasons why sometimes you see so many folks on the street, maybe like rolling their cars, because even the shelter, right? There are a lot of restrictions. There are a lot of things you cannot do, especially when it comes to like an emergency shelter. There are a lot of things you cannot do there, right? It's
Mm.
like so. And I mean, with the way we love our freedom here in America, even a crazy person say you can't play with their
They don't
freedom
have
in this
freedom.
country. So some folks just don't want that headache, with those restrictions. So at the end of the day, they don't even want to be bothered with it. They do not even want to be bothered with it. And then for folks who want to be bothered with it, sometimes, right, as I said earlier, you just go spend the night, you gotta leave because the demand, other people gotta come in and lay their head down, and then they
Find
have
my
a one,
food.
yeah, and then they got like, for folks, if you're trying to find you, they try to find you that transitional housing. So there's so many layers to this thing, what I mean. Where the transitional housing piece is like a week to a month, while they're trying to find you like a more stable situation. But instead of trying to do all the piecemeal solution, there is a solution to this thing though. It's just that bigger as a society, we just maybe don't want to do it. But there's a solution to this thing. There's a way to get these people off the street. Not by force. I mean, even though my man Trump said they should just, it's like they should mentally commit them, you know.
Ooh.
They should take all homeless people and mentally commit them, right? But you know, yeah, there's like he signed an executive order recently, right? To those folks that don't want to leave the street, especially and directing counties and cities to try to do something about it. What homelessness, because it's a huge crisis in this country, right? But I don't think it's something that can be done by force, right?
Right.
Yeah, there should be some, work with the local jurisdiction to find us like a solution that it has to do with me. I think I've been saying, right? I think the money is the issue. There are a lot of things around here, but the main thing, like these cities or these counties just don't want to spend the money, and they don't want to maybe look at their price real estate and go put bunch of homeless people in there.
The radical in me tends to believe that this thing is intentional by
Whoa,
design.
intentional. So it's
Because
intentional to have homeless people on the street.
yes, and poor people in poverty. Because I mean, how else would the economy flow if everybody is at um a good economic level? I mean, how else will supply and demand flow? People gotta want something. People gotta be in need of something. I mean, it just would not cut it well for the folks who control the resources to just have everybody just okay in a society. That it's not going
Uh,
to make it's not going to make money. It's not going to make enough. So I mean, some part of me, and then the crime rates too, because all of this, when you look at it, all of this, like we stated earlier, this too encourages the crime rates. When people are poor and consistently downtrodden, I mean, they're not continuing to keep begging, right? So at some point, the man will have to do what the man has to do for himself and his family. I think in order for this type of society, this dysfunctional society to function, you gotta have uh, the extremities, right, on both ends, like the rich, the poor, the middle, just to have this continuous matrix. I mean, no, I don't want to go all the way there, but
I
I mean,
okay,
that's
Peterson, go ahead because
no,
I
I'm
think that
saying
man. Yeah, I
that's
mean, it's
us.
like that man is preaching. That man is. I mean, I think that man preaching. I don't agree on that, though, but go ahead.
no. I
Exactly.
mean, he does have a point. This
Mhm.
is why you will hear about more. prisons being built than schools or like
Wow.
and things like that. So
Business.
and because if who's going to populate those prisons if you have a new maximum security, minimum security, whatever, if you have a new prison built within like certain area, like who do you expect to go in there? It's not people from their homes. That you're not going to go get them from their homes to go
Right.
into those prisons. So he does have a point, that out of this there's like there are strings being pulled here and there to keep keep things at a certain level. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that seems like a conspiracy theory to me, but I don't want to. I don't want to.
There
I
you
don't want to.
go.
I don't want to
don't go
push.
down that rabbit
There,
hole,
I don't,
right?
I don't want to go down
there
that
you go.
rabbit hole. I don't want to push that. I
Okay.
definitely don't want to push that. But it seems like a conspiracy theory to
There's
me,
no other
though.
way
But
to make sense of this, Abe.
Make it make
no, 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 no.
sense,
It make, I give it to you, right? I give it to you. It's like, you know, I mean, the extreme part right, is like this is like a two extremes, right? You have there's a
yeah.
country of almost trillionaires now, right? I mean, Elon Musk sooner or later he's going to be a trillionaire, where he's going to be imagine he's
Wow.
going to be worth $1 trillion, okay? And yet you have almost a million people at night that have nowhere
Yeah.
to sleep, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's like two extremes. So obviously, that right there is like you gotta say make it make sense to me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Elon Musk alone can take all of those folks out of the street. Elon Musk alone, right? I'm not talking about he and his fellow billionaires, but he alone
Just
can
alone.
afford
And
to
nothing
take
will happen to
all
that
of these
guy.
people
Yep.
off the street and house them without anything and especially like even if you can't do it for maybe those that have not served the country before, but just these veterans, man, to your point earlier,
Yeah.
folks that have
Yeah.
served this country, no matter what, they shouldn't be on shelter. They shouldn't be on the street. They shouldn't be begging. I mean, man, it's like you should if you ever visit Texas, especially as Texas is a huge military state. If you ever visit these places, man, you see it's huge. It's huge. It's like New Orleans is huge. It's just, especially in the South, it's a crisis, right? Because that's what I mean. That's where the poverty rate in some of these places is high. But I think it's something the government should try to do something about. And I don't know how, but we should do something about it. But as we try to wrap up here, though, how or maybe as I asked earlier, right? How can we solve this? But what is the message, to folks listening? I know everybody have encountered this. You see these people all the time, everywhere. And as I said, if you travel America, I love to travel a lot, especially in America. Hey, it's everywhere you go. There are homeless people, and sometimes you say, "Wow, how can there be homeless people in the greatest United States?" But how can we work on on a solution, Titus, as we try
I
to wrap
think
this up?
I think that eviction prevention notice, or evasion prevention that you talked about, that's kind of going away in other cities. I think they should continue to maintain that. You know, I think
So
that's
even
one of the
though
ways.
even though let me hold you there, if someone cannot pay
Yeah,
their rent
go.
for 4 5 months, they should just keep them there.
They should work with the person, brother. They need to work with the person. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not easy.
Okay.
It's not easy.
Okay.
Um, the wages have to increase just like everything else. Wages must increase. Just like everything. Eggs is what, $5, $6. Why are people still making the same money? And they have the cost of living continues to increase. I mean, it's disproportionate. And then there are other resources. Let's continue to talk about it. If you need help, reach out to local government. Reach out to the city, the state. There are resources out there. Um, Speak to social workers. But I mean, that's the least they can do. And then we must get involved. We must get involved again with local government. We must be on the table to have these discussions, show them our numbers, and that we are certainly responsible for a great deal of people out here. So we must be heard on these tables. But I mean, it's a really good conversation. It's just something to continue to think about, because I mean, at the end of the day, I can't really make this make sense, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. That definitely right to your point. But when it comes to the wages stuff, right, I think we should all be making 2 or 300 dollars per hour because man, if you go to the grocery store, man, things are so expensive though.
For real.
Honestly,
For real.
honestly. Hey, I'm just gonna say that, right?
Up
You
there.
go to a store to just, especially like for those that have families, I feel for them, right? It's like, and if this thing continue, man, if they don't try to find a solution to this thing, you go to a store, nothing less than 200-300 these days. Nothing less, honestly. And that's just on little
Thanks.
groceries. Not even like you have like 2 or 3 carts, right? It's
Yeah.
just little groceries. Sometimes you want, okay, what did I just? What did I mean? It's like it's 300. What's in this cart? Nothing.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the wages, I think that when it comes to affordability, right, is that everything things prices are so high. I think we should all be making we should all be making a lot. But anyway, I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Peterson, as we wrap this up, man, what's a message to to the folks that have been listening to us tonight, or folks that are gonna watch this segment, man, about this whole homelessness in America, the greatest country in the world, these United States.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a great conversation. When it comes to the issue of homelessness, I don't think there's one single solution. I mean, everything, of course, has to start at the like to say grassroots level. So that will come to uh, the local uh, the local government
Hmm.
to step up. And I mean, sometimes people will say, "Oh, we cannot depend on the government for everything," but for this main issue, the government has a huge part to play in it, and they can impact this issue in a huge way by um, making it possible or making housing more affordable. Working with these developers, these real estate companies, um, to make affordable housing. I mean, if what the units that they already have constructed, if they cannot, depending on whatever reason, if they cannot make it affordable, then give them some subsidies so that they can construct like more affordable housing. And to your point, even if you are not addressing every homeless person, especially like the veterans and people
Yeah.
uh, with military background, there's no reason that with all the money that is spent, like the defense bill, every year when you hear it, it's like, wow, is that like actual money and things like that? Like the money that we spend on defense, some of that can go to make sure that once these veterans get out of the military, that they will have affordable living for like the rest of their life. I know some of them they get pension and things like that, but a vast majority of them that are on the street is because they cannot afford to live where they are. They cannot afford housing, so the government should consider um, ways and talk to the local government. When I say government, I'm not talking about just federal, but everybody needs to come together. And we, as individuals within our community, we need to also get engaged, like Tyler said, and come to the table and say, okay, how can we solve this problem? Because nobody wants to see their neighbor or somebody like out on the street when you're driving to see them on the corner. I don't care who you are, it's going to be like heartbreaking for you. So we should all try to come together to find a solution. And if you are struggling or if you are experiencing like homelessness, um, there are resources available. It might not be like what you want. It might not be a five-star hotel, but at least try to find help, and then uh, you can go on from there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Gentlemen, yeah, it's been a great conversation though,
Hey,
right?
hey, before you
Yeah, yeah, go
close
ahead.
up,
Yeah.
the executive order that you spoke about with
Hmm.
Trump, is that
Hmm.
into effect already?
Yeah, yeah. He signed it, I think, sometime last week. He signed that sometime last week.
To just commit everybody mentally?
Well, not. I mean, I'm simplifying it. I'm being over dramatic. You know, it's not-
Okay.
no, no, no. He said
Yeah, I would
those that
like to read
refuse.
on that.
Yeah, those that are refusing or those that might refuse. Right? Is like, to kind of commit them because he feels it's a crisis. He has a knowledge or he did
It
acknowledge
is.
that it's a crisis, and but he wants to solve it. But the way my man, sometimes the way he does things, right? And then folks that have been working on this issue for a long time, they say he's going about it the wrong way because it cannot be by force, right? If someone in America would believe in freedom, as I said, even the craziest person here feels like they are entitled to their freedom. That's why even we have this Second Amendment right? Is that people feel like
Hmm.
even someone that got mental problem feel he's entitled to a gun because that's Second Amendment right. So
Yeah.
so that's the kind of culture we live in. But anyways, so but I think we can do more research on that and then
Yeah, sure.
try to bring an expert here who has been working on this. Because a lot of people, a lot of folks actually have been doing some good work, right, on this whole homeless crisis in America and try to see how they can help folks. But as we wrap up here, gentlemen, it's been a great conversation, though, right? I guess it's like to both of you point, there should be a collective effort. Sometimes I'm not one of those that sometimes my kids will say, "Oh, Dad, can you give him the dollar or two?" That's it might help, but sometimes they just take that dollar and two to go buy another drugs. No, that
Go
shouldn't
get
be the
high
problem,
again.
right? The problem should be that we should all. It's a collective responsibility. We should maybe like talk to our local officials, right? Or we also get involved in local politics. We always, to your point, Titus, that is like it is affecting families. We have families, children, veterans, and things like that. So it should be all of our responsibility to see how best we can try to solve this problem, right? And sometimes government is us, talking to our local officials, right? Now we talk about they are raising our property taxes. If you're going to raise my property taxes so high, what are you going to do with all that money? Okay.
Right.
Yeah, what are you gonna all that?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do all that money? So it should be up to us to advocate for those that don't
Yeah.
have it. And to Peterson's point, right? Sometimes you might there is something that can hit anyone. It can knock at anyone's door because things are getting unaffordable, man. Is that if you're even if you're when your mortgage keeps going up, you might think about selling, and say,
Yep.
hey, but where are you gonna move? If you go become a renter, even that's expensive. So yeah, but folks, it's been a great conversation. I mean conversation.
Couple of paychecks away from being homeless.
That's it.
Yep.
That's exactly. I was telling just before we go there, right? You just brought a point. I was telling a friend of mine, a former coworker of mine. Obviously the Fed is predicting a recession. We might be approaching a recession. I said that's going to be devastating because things are
Sheesh.
so high, and then if a recession hits and people start losing their jobs, man, the whole even the homeless thing we're talking about, man, it could get it could get
Get
worse.
worse. Yeah.
It
Hmm.
could get worse. So, but anyway, folks, we're gonna be back here tomorrow for our business segment. But it's been a great show. Thank you so much, Peterson from the windy city of Chicago. Thank you, my man, Titus. It's been a good
Thank you,
conversation.
gentlemen.
Psycho
Yep.
Podcast to bring this topic here just to create awareness and amplify our immigrant voices. So, thank you so much, folks. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Never alone.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Together as one, we've created a home. So join the conversation. Let's